Hey guys, what's going on today? So we got a great story for you today. The CELICA helped us catch a criminal last night. That's right, it was a very eventful Friday night, but I gotta get some coffee in me, so let's start up the car and then we'll get into this story.
They never really understand me. I need a comment like I need a Grammy. She lays the flow with her designer panties. Yeah, we eating plenty. Check the pantry from the sound waves to the rebel lines, from the tattered bridges to expensive dishes. Now we eating ends with these new beginnings. Yet to sign a major for the bankroll, but thank the Lord that it dies a penitentiary. Nice guy, but my inside is empty. Mighty flashy with a bird's eye. Scribble gems to get my pockets lined till I get authorized. Switch my heart is icy, walking past the bouncer like I knew somebody. Crew like hella cloudy, yeah, the poison ivy. Went from like a stronger with a co-sign me. I don't even like me. Long stare in the mirror. He claim me the goodness to shy, but timid the riddles.
Try not to scrape. Oh, we did it. Oh, there goes your sign. Alright, so we got our coffee. I'm just trying to find a spot that we can go so we can explain this story to you guys. So the title is not clickbait, you guys. It's 100% true. We actually caught an armed criminal. So, well, assisted in catching an armed criminal. So we're going to cruise around and find a spot where I can stop and talk about this and explain to you guys exactly what that means. Let's hit some lift. Oh yeah, one other thing I was going to tell you guys about is I was at work, I went to the parts room, I came back, and somebody put a dead bird on my toolbox. And so, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I buried that little bird in his toolbox. Other one. This one? Yep, open. So he already found it. Damn. Bitch. Tweet, tweet, motherfucker. Alright guys, so I was struggling to find a good spot to do this little discussion. So anyway, we ended up being right by the tracks. You can see the car's kind of filthy right now. Obviously, she's nowhere near where we want her to be. If you want to know kind of what the plans are for the CELICA, so we're going to break it down into 3 stages that we'll talk about later in the video. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed so far. Subscribe if you have not already. But how did the CELICA help us catch a criminal? So I live in a small community, about 2,500 people, you guys. And last night I got home and my neighbor yelled out his window as I drove by. Gives me a lot of crap for the car, loud. You know, anyway, he's like, I thought they were after you. And I said, after me? What are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, didn't you see what happened? And I said, no. And he's like, well, it was literally like 5 minutes before you rolled into town. There were cops, city cops, not troopers, city cops from all of the surrounding small towns. And I guess what happened, as they're explaining it to me, is that this pickup flew by our neighborhood street. Speed limit's what, 30 miles an hour in a residential neighborhood? And the guy was going to like 75 miles an hour, and like 6 cop cars followed after this guy. Long story short, he made it down to the fairgrounds and crashed out there. So as they're explaining this to me, this random guy walks by, and my neighbor jokingly is like, there he is. Well, we live in a small town, like I just said, about 2,500 people, and you normally recognize most of the people that are walking around out and about. Nobody recognized him, but he was joking, obviously. About 10 minutes later, he walks by again. And again, then he cuts through an alley, then he comes back, then he cuts through a yard, and we're like, this is really sketchy. So we called the non-emergency number and it dispatches to Fargo-Moorhead, not in our town here, and asked for a description of the guy. Then we kind of walked outside just to see what was going on, and this guy like came out of nowhere, walks right in between us, like right down the sidewalk, and he looks around, he's kind of doing this like all the time, like just looked a little odd, looked nervous. Again, nobody recognized him, and he looks at us and he's like, beautiful night right for a walk, guys. And then he took off. Well, I'm kind of watching him go down the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I see him cut between my yard and my neighbor's yard, who have a small child. And the first thing I thought was, I'm gonna follow this guy. This is sketchy. I want to see, you know, what's going on. Where's he gonna go? Because he's over by my house again, cut through my yard towards my neighbor's yard. So I went around my backyard, my dog's barking. So I'm trying to shut Sammy up, and then I kind of hide in the woods and go along, and I see him disappear off the sidewalk, and all of a sudden he appears in another alley. And I'm just like, this isn't sitting well with me. So I look at my neighbor, I said, I'll be right back. I hop in the Celica and I start driving around. I see the guy again on a sidewalk, obviously doesn't recognize my car or anything like that. So he waves at me and I'm like, I'm just gonna follow this guy. So I drove around behind a back alley a couple blocks away. Then I parked by the food pantry that we have here in town, and I just shut my car off and was watching. All of a sudden he ends up on my other neighbor's front door, like on the porch, on the doorstep, and he's pounding on the door, and I'm like, oh my God. So I call my neighbor and I say, you need to call them, tell them not to open the door, you need to call 911. So he does that, and a cop is driving by me straight past where this guy was because he had barged into their house. And I flagged the cop down. He comes over, what's going on? And I said, I know where your guy is. I've been following him. I followed him in the car. He's in that house. And he said, okay. I said, he matches the description. And they said, well, there's a chance he might belong there. And I said, no, he does not, because I know those people. I know that this guy does not belong in that house. So he went over there, knocked on the door. Long story short, here comes a highway patrol. Here comes a state patrol. The guy had a gun. He was giving him some sob story about how his girlfriend left him in this town. Turns out he was in a carjacking multiple towns away, had multiple warrants for his arrest, had a gun stuffed down his pants, and it was just absolutely crazy, you guys. The cop ended coming up back by later and telling us thanks and whatever, you know, telling us that everything was okay. He was arrested and he's now in jail. So I know this was a little clickbait, but you guys, the Celica did help me because I followed with the car. So now I wanted to tell you what's going to happen with the Celica. Also, make sure you comment on this video, because that is how you're going to get the mystery boxes. Put a card up here for a video where we explain the mystery boxes, but I'm going to break the build for this 2003 Celica GTS down into 3 stages. We're going to do suspension, power, and aesthetics, okay? So I have parts on order. Some have shown up, some have not. You know, as you guys probably know, shipping has been kind of crazy with all the stuff going on in the world, but my goal power-wise for this car is going to be about 300 horsepower. If you know anything about the 2ZZ GE, you know that's going to mean forced induction on this car. While the supercharger kit makes the most sense in my opinion, given the characteristics of this engine, we are going to run nitrous first. So doing that, I want to make sure I set it up correctly, so I want to get a standalone ECU. I could tell you about all of the parts that we have, but I really don't want to spoil anything. So in the next week or so, I hope I have enough of my parts shipped to my house that I can do the first episode on the Celica build. But you guys, thanks for watching this video. I just thought it was kind of a cool story, kind of a cool vlog. If you liked the video, once again, make sure you drop a like down below, comment, subscribe to the channel, make sure that you comment so that you get a chance to win one of those mystery boxes. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Swear they never really understand me. I need a comma like I need a Grammy. She likes to flow with her designer panties.